Hello. Today's talk and teaching is about fear. Some of the elements of fear. Now, we've previously done a teaching of fear, which gives you some idea of how the fear works, with fear, judgment, and cynicism, and how the mechanism works. This one is about teaching about the three things we fear the most and why we fear them. So, what we are going to do is to start this off, explain a little bit back to the teaching about love, which is also available on the web or on YouTube that you can pick up, that I have done before. It's a 10-minute quick introduction to love. So in that teaching of love, we said that love in its representation is made up of this triangle. The first one is trust. Second one is acceptance. And third one is respect. This is what we see. That is how love is experienced, and love is that. So, when we live in our lower mind, which has created its identity, and in that identity it sees itself as small or incomplete. It sees itself as afraid, and it sees itself as lone, something isolated from everything else. Now, when that identity lives there, what it's doing is it is craving in its small, its little ail, afraid, incomplete, and lone. In its ailment, to deal with it, it is seeking love. Not being aware that it already has and it already is love. So what it does is it is seeking these three things: trust, acceptance, and respect. So if trust, respect, and acceptance are the things that it's seeking, what is it that it's mostly going to be afraid of? The very things that will stop these three things appearing in your life. So what are those things? If you go to the psychologists, they'll tell you there's two things that we are afraid of. One is called rejection. And the other is called failure. Can you see it? Isn't it interesting? Acceptance. If you fear rejection, it is because it will take away acceptance, isn't it? If you fear failure, it's because it will take away respect, deny it to you, or give you its opposite. And there's one other thing that we fear enormously, and that one is called betrayal. Because betrayal breaks trust. Trust disappears from your life. Three things. Now, these great fears are the very things that prevent and block your experience of life. When we fear failure, we stop doing things because we might fail. When we feel rejection, we stop relating to people in case they may reject us. And when we fear betrayal, we stop trusting people. Which is why we have created a whole world of crazy legal structures in our society that completely destroys trust. So many of us, in fact, we know through the deep teachings, we know through the deep teachings that trust is a fundamental basis. Why it's on the point of that triangle because it is the fundamental basis of our relationship with this world. If we are unable to trust anything, we will become enormously fearful. We have to find someone, somewhere, something to trust in. If we cannot do that, those two don't become possible in our world. Now that is a deep teaching, and it requires a lot of time, so I won't go into it, but I would ask you to have a look at this and start seeing how much of your life is being stopped because of these failures. And guess what these failures do? Or these fears do, the fears. When we fear failure, we don't do anything. If we don't do anything, what don't we get? Respect. When we fear rejection, we don't relate to people. So what don't we get? Acceptance. When we fear betrayal, we don't trust people. So what don't we get? Trust. So when we live in these three places, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of betrayal, we exercise a world in which love no longer becomes possible. So understand the conversation of fear. When we fear something, that which we fear manifests itself, and you can see how it does that. I fear failure. Why? Because actually I don't want to be disrespected. But because I fear failure and I don't do anything, I don't get any respect. So it manifests in the form of stripping from me the very thing I'm craving. And do you understand why life becomes so horrible? And we are filled with anxiety, emotion that is negative. We are filled with all of these issues that keep cropping up and coming into our world. We are unable to deal with them without losing our mind. Just before I finish, I'd like to share with you that these are very real fears and they must be part of our world. And what I teach and what we teach in our programs is to learn to do something. Is to learn to walk past the fear of failure, the fear of rejection and the fear of betrayal. To go into the world and respect it, accept it and trust it as you, the loving being. And when the world turns round and disrespects you because it has deemed something you've done as failure, or rejects you, or betrays you, that you learn to walk past that rejection, that failure, or that disrespect, and that betrayal, and continue to love. That is the triumph of the human spirit. That is where you will step from being the victim, the one who is subjugated and small and miserable, to the one who is great and the one who is the emperor of your destiny. So this is a small teaching. I hope it has been of great service to you. And I thank you again for the privilege and honor of letting me be at your service and guidance. I look forward to talking to you again sometime soon. Thank you once again for the honor and privilege.